I'd like to welcome everyone to Helps YouTube Live today on July 30th, 2025. My name is Eric Olsen, attorney for Helps. Welcome to our channel. Glad to have you here today. Appreciate all your support, and we always appreciate when you share what Helps does with others. So what Helps is a national law firm that represents seniors and disabled persons who owe debt they can't afford to pay. People find out about us, and we ask them some questions, and our most important information to seniors and disabled persons is that your Social Security, your pension, your disability, your VA benefits, that income is protected by federal law. It can't be taken from you. It's available for your needs. It doesn't have to be used to pay a debt you can't afford to pay. And so that's what we do. We represent seniors who owe debt, stop creditors from harassing them. We do that under a federal law called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, passed in 1978, provides if you're represented by an attorney, debt collectors have to leave you alone. So welcome to our YouTube channel. If you have any questions about your situation, you're welcome to put it in the chat feature. Don't be bashful. Don't worry if the question's been asked before. I don't care. Everyone on this channel doesn't care. We like to hear these questions over and over again because a lot of the seniors just don't know this stuff, and we want to be able to give them right information. Why don't they know what we're talking about today? Well, because there's a concerted effort on the part of debt collectors to withhold this information from seniors. They don't want them to know that their income is protected, that no one can touch their Social Security, no one can touch their pension or the VA benefit or their other forms of retirement. Uh, um, so, yeah, can you hear me? I want to make sure that I press the right button. No, it looks like I'm here. Okay. Someone says, is he showing yet? Uh, are you getting me? Okay. It's kind of difficult sometimes because, everyone has different computers and sometimes their computers aren't working. And I will admit sometimes my computer isn't working always. Although it looks like for some of you it is working. So someone tell me they can see me. You are working fine, Larry says. Good. Okay. And I apologize if you're not getting me. Maybe close it and open it up. You can always, the nice thing about our Helps YouTube live channel is you can always look at these videos later. Okay. And which is kind of nice. So thanks for letting me know. So I assume you can see me and you can hear me both, right? My computer shows that the mic is outputting right. So we'll just get right started. This person from Connecticut calls us and they say, I have 9 credit cards, about $30,000 in debt. I collect Social Security and a pension. I'm also working. Things are very tight. I'm 73 years old. Any suggestions? Well, okay. First, I'm going to tell this person that your Social Security and your pension is protected. No one can touch it. Now, he's working. Can they take his income? Well, kind of doubtful. Okay. Different states have different laws, and there's a federal law that protects. There's a federal law that protects a minimum of $217.50 net per week in wages from garnishment. And then other states, that's $217.50. That's $435 every 2 weeks, about $950 a month. But someone would have to sue you, have a judgment, know where you work, and that all becomes more unlikely as over time. So Connecticut goes along with the federal law, but some states don't even permit a garnishment. They don't even allow it. Let me get my settings. Do not disturb. There we go. don't, like Texas, you can't garnish in Texas. Some states protect a larger amount. California, $600 at least per week. And then other states, there's other states that don't permit garnishment, okay, or have a bigger exemption that's protected. But just so you know, we represent lots of clients, lots of seniors, some of which work. We just don't get, we don't have a problem with our seniors being garnished. When you enroll with helps, you give us the creditors you owe money to. We're going to send a cease and desist letter out to that lender or that creditor or collector that lets them know that you're getting Social Security. You can't afford to pay the bill. I think it makes it less likely you would get sued. You could possibly get sued. If you get sued, you get us a copy of the lawsuit. We're going to send a letter to the attorney that sued you, let them know that your income's protected. We're going to call you, tell you why you don't need to worry, why they can't take your property, remind you how your bank account's protected. So, yeah. So if you want to work, keep working, that's fine. We'll go over it with you. So if you have questions, put them in the creditors. Tommy says, if they freeze my bank account just before my direct deposit comes in, will the bank still accept the direct deposit? Well, I don't know what you mean by freeze your bank account. You mean if you get a writ of garnishment, okay? So when a bank gets a writ of garnishment, it comes in the mail, okay? And they open up the letter, and maybe they opened it up at 10 o'clock in the morning. And then what they do, the clerk that opens it up, that's in charge, they have a department in the bank that deals with this. They open up the letter and they look at the account at that time, and they base any garnishment on what's in the account at that very moment. Okay. Now, there may be a few states that let it stay open for a while, but I'm not aware of any. Okay. But they look at that moment. So if you have in your account, they can identify where the money came from that was deposited in your bank account. And they look at the accounts you have. If you have one account to which your Social Security or a federal benefit is deposited, then they times the amount you get each month times 2, and they automatically protect that from garnishment, regardless if there's other monies in there. Doesn't matter if there's other monies in there, they're going to protect that amount. So if you got 1,500 in Social Security, 3,000 is protected automatically from garnishment. So the direct deposit, the bank doesn't have the authority to reject the direct deposit. When it hits the bank, it's in there. So no, it's not going to, a garnishment isn't going to prevent you from receiving a deposit of your income, your pension, or your Social Security, whatever it is. It's not going to do that. You don't need to worry about that. Got it? Tommy? Should be okay. So Daryl asked, my wife and I are both educators and in credit card debt. We both are still working. I'm a teacher and she's a teacher. We both are in our 70s. Her health is declining. Um, Once again, whether they can take any money depends on a couple of things. It depends on where you live, and if they sue and you get a judgment, they know where you work. That's not always easy to find out. Okay, if where you're working at, and then it depends on your state. Like I said, some states protect more than the minimum. The federal minimum is $217.50 net per week. You know, that was established back in the 1990s. Now, why hasn't it gone up is a good question. Well, the reason is, I guess the congressmen have just said we're going to leave it up to the states. If the states want to raise the amount that's protected, let them do it. Okay, and so that's what, maybe at some point in the future the federal government get involved. I don't see that on the horizon. Okay. So Daryl asked, if we do debt consolidation and later can't pay, we'll be able to include that in our debt stop. Absolutely, you bet. You know, some people think, well, they've sued me and I made arrangements to pay, therefore I'm obligated to pay that. You can stop paying that if your income, Social Security, or you can include that with helps. We send them a letter, they leave you alone. You know, even though you may have made an agreement with them in the past to pay the debt, you can stop that. Okay. So Daryl, no, if you're with debt consolidation and you decide to terminate it, you can include that. Okay. I always ask people that are in debt consolidation, I say, when you signed up for them, if you're on did they ask you if you're on Social Security, or if you're on Social Security or a pension? Did they ask if did they tell you that your income was protected? And very rarely do they tell seniors that. And in that case, I say, they withheld information from you. It's a form of fraud. If you're advising someone on their finances, and you get money out of it yourself, and you give the information to the person that benefits you and not them, then that's fraud. Okay, because that's what they do. If they don't tell a senior their income is protected, instead sign them up in a program making payments to them so that they get paid, because they get paid when you make payments to them. Okay, some of the money may go to your creditor, but they get a hunk. But if they told you that your income was protected, you didn't need to enroll with them, you would have the option not to enroll with them. But if they don't tell you that, you know, it's a form of it's a scam. It's a form of fraud. Anyway, I get upset about it because I talk to a lot of seniors that are really strapped financially, and they've signed up with debt management or debt settlement, even a nonprofit one, and they were never told that their income was protected. Okay. Okay. So this person contacts us and says, I'm 74 and soon to be 75. I'm on Social Security and I'm semi-retired professional, medical professional, and presently on a salary. My overall credit card debt is $33,000 due to sudden medical surgery issues, unexpected home and family expenses. I am interested in finding out more about help services and the cost of your service, and what exactly can you do or offer to me in terms of reducing my present debt. Then he tells us how to get a hold of him. Okay. So he's 75. He's soon to be 76. I don't know how much longer he's going to be working. He's getting Social Security. What I tell him is that, well, okay, you can still work if you want. Your Social Security is protected. If for some reason you can't afford to pay these debts, or if you need to quit work for whatever reason, he's had uh, surgery, he's got medical issues, he's 75 years old. If you can't work anymore, then fine. If you decide not to work and you owe this debt, and these creditors will come after you and sue you, they can't collect from you because your Social Security is protected. If you're going to get a pension, it'll be protected too. Okay. You don't need to pay it. We're not going to be able to reduce your debt, but we're going to prevent the creditors from bothering you. Now, if they decided to sue you, as I've explained, your income is protected, and you're protected in your bank account, and your other assets are protected. We talk about it, how homes are protected and why. Um, so this person will be fine. Now, if he still wanted to work, he could still work. If he got sued, would they be able to take any money from him? Well, it depends on the state where he lives. They don't permit garnishment in Texas, for example. In other states, the same way, but some states have exemptions to different amounts. And then, or he could decide at some point to stop working where they couldn't garnish, or maybe he file bankruptcy at some point. We occasionally refer someone to a bankruptcy. I did about 30 or 40,000 bankruptcies before I started Helps. But I started Helps because seniors simply didn't need to file bankruptcy. There was very few of them needed to do it. A lot of them couldn't afford it. But the problem is they come and talk to me, and I tell them that, but I knew when I sent them home, creditors were going to still call them and make their lives miserable, and they're still going to be scared. So the magic of Helps is that We represent you ongoing. It's not just one time. We're literally your attorney forever, so you never have to deal with debt collectors. And Daryl says, I feel bad because we created this credit card debt and due to both our overspending and bad health. Well, you didn't intend to do that. It's just life happened to you. I talked, I'm 74 myself. Okay, I've been doing this for a long time. You know, seniors do not get into these problems on purpose. They don't intend to run up the debt so they can't pay it. Life just happens. Sometimes, you know, things, before you know it, wow, I'm in this mess. I didn't realize I got there, but now my health is depleted. I can't keep paying the debt, or my spouse passed away. I can't make the payment anymore, or it looks like I helped the kids too much, or the interest rates went way up on these cards more than I expected. Now I've got these extra medications I have to pay for. Any number of reasons. So don't feel bad. Okay. I mean, lawmakers protected seniors' income for a reason. They didn't want them to go without their basic needs. They want you to have enough money for your food, for your medicine, for heat, air conditioning, whatever it is that you need. Okay. So they protect it. Um, and we got people climbing in and explaining to Daryl why he doesn't need to feel bad. Okay. So this person calls us from New Jersey. Look, I think I talked to her. I think I may have talked to her today. In fact, she had a New Jersey accent, and she has 20,000 in tax debt. Okay, to the IRS. Um, I think she's like 73 or 74, and so she worked for the last couple of years, and then all of a sudden retired for whatever reason. She gets about $2,500 in Social Security and $800 in a pension. So that adds up to $3,300. But she's working. She went to work because she got a final notice from the IRS and she's scared. I got a final notice, she said, to keep paying, but she says, my health just doesn't allow me to keep working, Mr. Olsen. Well, I told her, okay, listen, if you do nothing, if you stopped work, the worst the IRS would do as a practical matter would send you a letter saying they intend to offset 15% of your Social Security. They're not going to touch your pension. They don't do that. Legally, they could, but they don't as a practice. They don't do that. So what is 15% of $2,500? Well, what is that? What, 375, something like that? Um, whatever it is, it's a little bit less than $400. And now, I also told her if she wanted to, she could get on the IRS website and she could pay those taxes over a period of 5 years, 6 years, 72 months. And the payment would be right around $400, maybe a little bit more than that. She could do that, or she could just wait to see if the IRS does it to her, or if they intend to offset 15% of her Social Security, she could enroll then and pay it over 5 years or 6 years. But, if she does nothing, the IRS may not do anything. The computer system may show that, she's only getting Social Security and a little pension. They may not even show the pension, and they may decide not even to try to collect from her. So it's going to be up to her. Now, she did have other debt. She had some credit card debt, and she even had some payday loans. She was pretty strapped, pretty stressed. I told her, you don't need to pay those anymore. You can stop paying the payday loans. You can stop paying the credit card debts. No one's going to, and if she needed to, I told her how she could. She was waiting for an appointment, so I sent her some emails, and So you can call back if we want. You can enroll in helps. And if you're listening to me, it's the same for you. She can enroll in helps, give us a creditor she owes money to. We'd send them a cease and desist letter, and all these other creditors wouldn't be able to bother her. They couldn't do anything to her. But her main question was about the taxes. So if you have any of these questions that I don't address here in the chat or in the YouTube live, you can always call us toll free 855-435-7787, and we'll talk to you. We have paralegals standing by and attorneys that can answer your questions. Don't want you to worry. So this person calls, okay, this said, I don't know if I'm an official client or not. I've had email communications and telephone communications with your company about my credit card debt and how to handle the collectors and protect my assets. The calls yesterday seemed it was going very good. Sure, because we were telling him he's going to be okay. That's what we tell seniors. They don't have to worry. So, calls with helps are generally pretty good calls. And I say generally, I'd say virtually always are pretty good calls. We don't have to tell people that they need to be worried or scared. It's just the opposite. So he said the call was doing pretty good. And he says, until I was asked for a credit card number and for a fee payment, which would be taken out every month before we went any further. Well, that wasn't quite that way. But anyway, let me go on. Seems a little odd, doesn't it? I have a credit card problems, which I shredded all of them, but now I need to pay you first with a card. Okay, so the way it works, sorry, the way it works with helps, you call us on the phone, and we're going to ask, have you talked to us before? And if you have, then we have you on our computer system. We know what we've said before. Some people call us 2, 3, or 4, or 5, 6 times before they decide to enroll in helps. But if it's your first time, then we're going to enter some information. We're going to put your name, your address, not your address, your name, what state you live, are you married or single, what's your age, how'd you find out about us, are you buying a home or renting, how much you owe on the home, some basic information about your finances so that we can give you correct information. Have you been sued? And then we're going to ask, what do you think you owe approximately in debt? Credit cards and medical bills. Are you buying a car? Do you own a car? So we want to know what kind of problem you have. Okay. And then we're going to read you a little script about what we do. And part of that script is if you have a credit card that you're current on, if you want to keep that credit card as long as it's not backed by a bank with whom you have another credit card you're not going to pay, you'd keep that credit card. And then we're going to explain why your income is protected and ask you, do you have any more questions? And then we're going to explain again what we do, okay, how people find out about us, they enroll in helps, we send letters to your creditors, they leave you alone. And then we talk about the fee. Maybe 1 out of 6 or 7 of our clients get our help for free. Those that pay a very minimal amount. Most a person would normally pay would be $40 for 24 months, then $20 for 24 months. Then free thereafter. Could be less, it depends on your income, your household income. And then people pay us normally by debit card, but occasionally people pay us with a credit card. If maybe they have a credit card they're current on, small balance, they want to keep it, they can do that. Doesn't matter. But this guy says, seems a little odd. I have a credit card problems, which I shredded, but I pay you first with a card, exclamation. Well, no, you pay us with your debit card. You don't have to pay us with a credit card. Okay. And the payment doesn't begin till 30 to 60 days in the future. Depends, like what's today? 7:30. So if you got paid on the 4th Wednesday of the month, your payment wouldn't begin, and you enroll today, probably wouldn't begin until like August 28th. The 28th would always be after the 4th Wednesday. But let's say you got paid on the 3rd of the month, then your payment wouldn't begin until like September 3rd or September 4th. So yeah, we make it work for people. And incidentally, I saw his name. I looked him up. He wasn't a client. He got a little confused with the call. And if you're confused, you can always call us. So Daryl asks, are judgments almost always automatic when you stop paying the credit cards and can't work anymore? We're in Missouri. No way that they're almost automatic. By definitely the exception than the rule. I used to give a percentage on how often a person would be sued, but I don't do that anymore because if I give that percentage and it's more than that, people get upset. Eric said it'd be this percent and it's more than that. Why is that? I can't guarantee. Bottom line is, if your income's protected, it doesn't matter if you get sued by everyone. They can't collect from you. You have nothing to be concerned about. Now, that doesn't mean that I want you to be sued. I don't. Um, I think it's less likely you would be sued if you join HELPS because we send a letter to your creditors letting them know that you're not going to pay. You can't afford to pay it. Your income's protected. It's a waste of their time to sue you. But, whether they read that or not, I don't know. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they let the computer make a decision. So Mary says it's not good to have to worry about health and credit card debt too. Helps will take your credit card issues away. I feel so at peace now. Oh, I heard that so many times. When Helps was new back in 2012, when I started it, we did at least 40 to 60 hours of videos with our newer clients. They may be somewhere on our website somewhere. I don't know. And there were some of them, but I remember one guy in particular. When he got interviewed, he talked about Helps, and he said it cured his cancer. I got a kick out of that. He was so in love with Helps. But the sweetest one, the video the guy did, said, when I talked to him about Helps, he said now he could buy his grandson a present. Okay. Okay. So Harry asked, what happens if someone is being sued by a credit card company and their house is free and clear except maybe a home equity line? Well, your home equity loan, home HELOC, home equity line of credit, is a mortgage. It's a lien on the home. A judgment can become a lien on the home. They're not going to take your home. Every state has an exemption called a homestead exemption. It protects a certain amount of equity. Some states are, it varies from state to state. Some states don't even permit a judgment lien. For example, in California, if the home is worth about 700,000 or less, if you've homesteaded the property, which is a form you file with the county, lien doesn't even attach. But in other states, you can sell the home, get a lien removed. Let's say you owned a home with your spouse, and the judgment was just against you. If you pass away before your spouse, then the home goes to your spouse, the judgment lien disappears. See, a judgment is a lien on property you own. It's not on property. It's not like a mortgage where they list the specific property down. Um, so we go over this when you talk to us, Harvey, about your situation. Some people, they may have a home situation. We talk about a lot of things. A lot of our clients haven't been sued yet. We might talk to them about maybe adding someone's name to the title as a joint owner with survivorship rights. May talk to them about maybe get a reverse mortgage to be able to access that equity. We talk about a lot of different things. We give a lot of legal information about Helps, information that could be helpful for you in making your decisions. So Daryl asks, should we enroll in Helps before we stop working and not paying credit cards? So what I'm going to tell you is that if we have 5 people that call, maybe 1 is being sued, 3 or 4 out of the 5 are being harassed by creditors to one degree or another. And then 1 out of 5 is completely current on everything. It doesn't matter where you are. No, you do not have to be behind. I don't want to be able to tell senior, well, now you know about helps. Stop making the payment, and you call us once these creditors are really calling you on the phone and sending you all these letters and suing you, and you're really worried and scared. Then you call us. You can call us right now. It doesn't matter. Sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned. So you don't have to deal with this stuff. Thanks, Alan. Alan says, my name is Alan, and I've been a member for over a year now. And when I joined Helps, I was 50,000 in debt. But after being sued 3 times, Helps got me through this. Yeah, that's what we do. The nice thing about Helps is that I know when we started Helps, the only way it would work is if our clients would have to be our clients literally forever. So when you enroll in Helps, you're our client forever. You can call us whenever you want, no matter how often, because you might get the creditor might send it to a new collection agency 2 or 3 years down the road, and you get a new letter from someone else. Well, what do you do? Well, you're our client. You call us. We're going to send a cease and desist letter out to that creditor or collector. You might get sued several years down the road, and you're worried about it. You're scared. Get us a copy of the lawsuit. We're going to contact the attorney that sued you, let them know your income's protected. We're going to call you, tell you why you don't need to worry, send you emails with links to videos and articles on why you're going to be fine and why you don't need to go to court. You're going to be fine. So after six months period, will the creditor check the bank again and try to get a judgment even though they got the cease and desist letter from Helps? Well, okay. A creditor really can't check your bank account. Years ago, they were able to do that. I remember as a young attorney, when I was in law school, I worked for a law firm, and I did what's called commercial collections. The law firm pretty much, they turned that whole business over to me, and I ran it. And commercial collection were business owed debt. So I learned a lot about debt collection back then, how it works. And if we got a judgment against someone, I could call a bank, and back then I could say, I got this check from this company for $5,000 or three, and I want to know if it's going to clear. And they would tell me, yeah, it'll clear, or no, it won't clear. And then I knew if it was going to clear, then I knew if we had a judgment, I could file a writ of garnishment. I was going to collect money for our client. Banks won't tell you anything, a creditor, anything like that anymore. No, they just zip their lips. So no, they can't find out. And so if you've been garnished before, are they going to do it again? Well, if they haven't got anything the first time, it's highly unlikely they're going to try again. But it won't matter. If someone sues you and gets a judgment against you and you're worried about them taking money out of your account, remember this: twice the amount of your Social Security or your federal income, like a VA pension, federal retirement, post office is a federal retirement, railroad worker, federal retirement, but mostly Social Security times 2, the amount you get each month times 2, that sum is automatically protected by your bank. There's a department in the bank, when they get a writ of garnishment, they look at where the money came from, they times it times 2 and protect that sum. Now, if you had more than that in there, and the excess could be held up, but then you could file what's called a challenge to garnishment or claim exemption to get it released. We help people do that when that happens. Doesn't happen very often because most of our clients are careful to keep not more than twice the amount in their bank account of Social Security funds. Now, you don't even need to worry about this unless you were sued and someone's going to get a judgment against you. Okay? Okay. How long from when you are served before you hear if you get your case dismissed or judgment has been entered? Well, Mary, it's unusual for them to dismiss a case. Okay, it happens, but normally they don't. It's done automatically. They just want to get a judgment. It'll be on the record and be there. But it might take, if you get served with papers for them to get a judgment, sometimes it depends on the state. It says, you have to court date within 30 days. But as a practical matter, there's so many procedures in the way. Gosh, sometimes it's 3 to 6 months before they get around to getting the judgment. It's hard to, I can't give you an exact date, but it's definitely not within 30 days, long, but long after that. Okay. How do they know when you're garnishing you? Good question. Well, you don't know usually until after it's happened. You get a letter if they, so you're not working. Okay. So who are they going to garnish? They're going to garnish the bank account if they know where you bank. And it's not easy for them to know. There's no place you can go to find out where someone banks, you know. Now, if you bank there a long time, they might have it on record. They'd have to have a judgment. And the way you'd find out is you get a letter from the bank saying, hey, something happened. There's a garnishment. We didn't take any money from your income was protected. And I suppose sometimes you may never even know it. The bank may never send a letter, never took money, never held up your account at all. See, technically they have 48 hours after they get a writ of garnishment notice to examine your bank account to see, where the money came from. It's a department in the bank. But, and when 2012, when this law came into effect, they took the 48 hours. And there was a hassle for a couple of years after that. It took a while for the banks to learn about this procedure. And I would even say today, 999 out of 1,000 attorneys don't understand this rule. Okay, they don't. But and your bank manager doesn't understand the rule, and definitely the clerk behind the teller doesn't understand the rule. But the department of the bank that deals with garnishments, they understand the rule. Okay, how your income. So how do you know? Well, you're not going to know unless you might get a letter in the mail. But it's bottom line is it's nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about, Mary. Is that who asked the question? So yeah, so here we go. When you go to use your debit card and it's declined. Oh, okay. Yeah, if we ever have a problem, it's on Monday morning. Someone calls and says, they garnished my bank account. Well, lo and behold, the bank got it on Friday. They didn't have time to release it. They know they have 48 hours business day hours. And so they wait till Monday or Tuesday to look at it. And I just tell people, be patient. They're going to release the money. And we don't get calls on Tuesday or Wednesday saying they still hold my money. What I'm assuming is the bank looked at it, they released the money, and the client is now happy. And they say, "Oh, Eric was right. They did release my money. I don't have to worry about it." But I know it's stressful, and I'm not making fun of anyone. When I laugh on these things, I'm trying to assure you guys so you understand why you don't need to be worried or fret about this stuff. I'm safe another month from garnishments. All bills. You laugh out loud. Good laugh. I don't want you guys to worry. That's why Helps was founded. So if you ever did worry or had a question, you could pick up the phone and you call and you could find something else to worry about. Okay. But those that are on this channel, I think they like talking with each other and they like maybe when the new seniors, they like being able to tell them, yeah, this is a good thing. This is okay. And I don't mind you doing that. That's great. We don't want you to worry. Okay, so that guy was an official client. I don't know if I'm going to, no, he was not an official client, but we're going to call him back. We're going to help him, straighten him out on his little confusion. So this guy calls us from Alabama. I need to help. I need help for my debit card. I need help for my debt. I'm retired, 77 years old. And oh yeah, I was scammed for more than $102,000 using credit cards for cash advances to Mr. David Clue. Clue. With a promise that once his cashier's check amounting to 1 million will be cleared, that he will buy my property or something like that, or buy something. In other words, this guy, He got scammed. He's 77 years old, and someone called him and said, "Hey, I need help with cashing this check." And he just bought this hook, line, and sinker. You know, if you think you're ever being scammed, you call Helps, whether you're a member of Helps or not, and we'll talk to you about it. I talked to a lot of seniors that are scammed. I've had a lot of experience with this. I remember the first time I talked to someone that was scammed seriously, it was back in probably 1979. I was a new attorney, and I just started filing bankruptcies for people. It could have been 1980. And this guy was going to college, and he was from, I think, Nigeria. And he had fallen in love with a girl. And then back then, they had advertisements, different places for uh, psychics that would help you with your love relationship. And it must have been something in his culture. And so he called this psychic, and she convinced him that he could get this girl to fall in love with him. And he managed to run up well over $100,000 in debt. She was able to get him to apply for credit cards, and he bought big screen TVs, sent to her money, whatever it was, and he had over 100,000 when he came to me, and he was kind of devastated. He just got suckered in by this psychic. Back then, there was a lot of them. They used to advertise on TV. They don't do it anymore. But it was going on. It's kind of like it goes. These scams go from one thing to another. The other scam that came later was these tax guys that would solve your tax problems. Ronnie Douche, is that her name? And then there was the guy with a big guy with red hair. And whenever I saw these guys, I said, they're going to run for 4 or 5 years, and then they're going to be disbarred and bankrupted. And sure, that's happened to every one of them. Boo, because they were scammers. The other one was companies that get you out of timeshares. Scammers. The other one is, they even advertise on the debt on these mortgage or title protections for your home. I hear legitimate guys on the internet. I mean, I don't know, Bill O'Reilly or some of these guys like him. They advertise that. Title protection on your home. Keep your home from being stolen from you. It's not going to happen. If someone, it can't happen. There's legal. And I say, oh my gosh, they're collecting money from people they don't need to do. The other one, I guess, I think is these debt management companies or debt settlement companies. Anyway, I could go on. So if you have a question on that kind of stuff, you call us on the phone. Um, and if you need to, you can ask to speak to one of the attorneys. We'll go over this with you. I don't want anyone being scammed. And the worst kind of scams are the romance scams. They're awful. Okay, they're awful. And the problem with it is when I try to convince someone or tell them they're being scammed, they just don't believe me. They just do not believe me. They're so in love. They're just convinced beyond reason that they're not being scammed. I don't want to offend anyone, but I would like to save you from losing your money. So here we go. Okay. So let me look here. Can you still work and stop paying credit cards, earning money twice the amount of your protected income? Well, okay. If you're working and you have income, the amount that we're talking about, it's talking about money that's protected in your bank account. So your bank account is protected from garnishment up to twice the amount of federal funds you get. Now, if you work, your wages are exempt, $217.50 net per week, $435 every 2 weeks, about $950 a month. And in some states, it doesn't even permit garnishment. Someone would have to sue you, get a judgment, know where you work. But if you took your wages and deposited them in your bank account, as long as the balance in your account is less than twice the amount of your federal benefits, it doesn't matter where the money came from. Okay? Does that answer your question, Daryl? You say you're confused? Remember, anyone's confused can always call and talk to us. Okay? Now, obviously, Dan is right. State law depends. In some states will protect more in wages than other states. It depends on the state. The amount of your bank account is twice the amount of federal benefits in your bank account is automatically protected, regardless of the source of funds in the account. Okay. So this is a note from someone that says, could have been on one of our YouTube videos with someone that says, I've been paying on back taxes for 2018. I can't afford to keep paying this. What will happen if I stop making the payments? Well, when we talk to you, we're going to go over this. And if your only income is Social Security, you probably don't need to pay those taxes. The IRS isn't going to do anything. And if you needed to, you could get on currently not collectible status with the IRS. Depends on what your income is. But yeah, if you made an arrangement with the IRS and now you can't afford it, things have changed, you could stop making the payment. You can talk to us. We'll go over this. We'll talk to you about maybe applying for currently not collectible status, or we'll talk to you about, what you can do. So this person contacts us from Louisiana. It's a nice state to live in, Louisiana. I'm buying a home and own a car outright. Credit card debt and an SBA loan that's paying off. This is a note from one of our paralegals. We read what we do. She called back with questions, and she decided to enroll with helps. Now, the SBA loan could be a problem, possibly. Right now, student loans aren't collecting. They're not setting off any money from Social Security. Okay, and IRS, if you make under a certain amount, you can get on currently not collectible status. Okay, and then I've explained how all your other creditors can't do anything. But what about another federal agency, which is like the SBA, which is Small Business Administration? Well, legally, it's possible for them to offset 15% of your Social Security. And technically, there's no provision to stop that if they were to do that, except if you file the bankruptcy. Now, some of them have taken on themselves to agree to accept lower payments, but legally, they don't have an authority to do that. They just have an authority to tell the IRS, tell the Social Security to take 15% of your Social Security. We don't see it happening very often, but they could do that. If you've got another agency debt, which is like the SBA or Rural Development Commission, or different federal agencies, and you have a problem, call and talk to us. We'll go over what your options are. Yeah, there's a special place in hell for those romance scammers. I can see someone scamming them, but if you try to fall in love with someone, make them fall in love with you, and then your whole purpose is to steal from them. How How dirty is that? That's the utmost despicable thing I can think of. It's just really bad. Okay. Yeah. So this person calls us from Texas. Okay. 55,000 in credit card debt, and they owe 5,000 in federal taxes. But they're on currently not collectible status with IRS. Yeah, they were getting Social Security, and they weren't worried about the taxes because they got on currently not collectible status with IRS, but they had 55,000 in credit card debt, which was probably a payment of $700 or $800 a month at least. And their income was protected. They didn't know what to do. They were distraught. They found out about helps. They enrolled, and they're happy because they don't have to pay the debt. So this person contacts us from New York. Only income was Social SSI. So what's SSI? So there's different forms of Social Security. There's Social Security, normal Social Security. There's Social Security disability. If you're younger and or you're disabled, you can get on Social Security disability, or older till you get on regular Social Security. But SSI is the type of Social Security for a person that maybe doesn't have enough credits to get Social Security. Maybe they never worked for whatever reason. And it's really a minimal amount. I can remember when it was in the 700s. Now this guy says he was getting 945, and he just got a summons. Thinks everything has gone to collections. He was scared. We went over what we do, why you didn't need to worry, enrolled in helps, and if you paid us anything, it was minimal, or maybe he got it for free. I don't know. We don't turn anyone away that needs our help. Okay. Time does go fast. We just have 7 minutes. Margaret says, now I owe the IRS because my father left an annuity insurance for me and they still took my federal income tax and they are still putting an intersection on the balance. I don't know what that means, intersection. You can call and talk to us, Margaret. We can go over that. Okay? Sorry about that. So this person contacts us from Washington, age 62 and 65. They get 2,400 in Social Security and 475 in a pension. Oh yeah, the wife called. Husband is in an assisted living facility. They got $80,000 in debt and 30,000 from some other medical facility. We talked to him. Then they called again in early July. Apparently the husband had had a stroke and was bedridden. That's why he was in the facility. Don't know if he's going to get out or not. Credit cards were in his name. The wife is working and she had some debt. Um, we went through the enrollment. We talked to him about, and they decided to enroll in helps. The wife did, and we enrolled him so that these creditors wouldn't bother her. They can't really bother him. I don't think he gets the phone there. In other words, they're going to be our client. They have a lot of debt. They're not going to need to worry about it. and there won't be a problem with their home based on the state where they're living in. There wouldn't be a problem anyway. Okay. So Alan says, yeah, a lot of sleepless nights, but thank God I'm sleeping fine now. Yeah, we hear that a lot from clients of helps. I don't want anyone to have sleepless nights when they don't need to. You can have sleepless nights for other reasons, not because of these financial ones. Your income is protected. Person calls us from Florida. I'm on a fixed income from Social Security disability income. I have a student loan and other accounts that I need to start paying on to build my credit back up so that I can start the process of becoming a first-time home owner. Okay, student loans normally don't report to the credit bureaus, but anyway, student loans they can't right now, they can't offset Social Security. And for our clients that are interested in rebuilding their credit, we do have a program called 7 Steps to a 720 Credit Score. If you've been part of HELPS for more than 90 days, you can enroll in that program. We can send you an email, help rebuild your credit. Your credit is based on your recent credit history, not on the old credit. So once it becomes old enough, it's not a problem. Okay, here's one. Guy calls us from California. I'm sending this on behalf of my cousin, who is a veteran of the Army and Navy. He is diagnosed with severe intellectual disability, whatever that means. How the military never knew this is beyond comprehension. You haven't studied the military much. He's been on this way since he was very young. Both his parents have passed away and he's on the brink of becoming homeless. And it's nice that his cousin's watching out for him. I watch out for my cousin. One of my cousins. You bet. You know why? Because I know my grandpa would want me to do that. So good. If you got a cousin, nothing wrong with watching out for your cousin. That's what your grandpa would want you to do. Or your uncle or your aunt. Okay, he has a credit card debt and I'm trying to get him help. Bless your heart. I would like to see if he can set something up because I don't even think he's even aware of what he owes. I believe maybe he got the cards when his mother was still alive, but now he's on his own. He just isn't able to maintain job or care. VA is doing nothing for him. Any advice? So if he gets VA benefits or Social Security, they're going to be protected. You know, you can talk. You can talk to us. You know, we'll always talk to someone. Um, you know, like a child that's talking about mom or dad or a brother or sister. We even talk to neighbors who are worried about a neighbor. There's nothing wrong with looking out for your for a friend or for someone that needs help. There's nothing wrong with doing that. We'll talk to you and give you advice. Okay. Yeah, this session went fast and it does go fast, but I'll be here tomorrow, Thursday. And same time, if you have any more questions, you can call us 855-435-7787. You can put questions in the comments in the chat feature, and we'll try to look at those comments on the YouTube video. So thank you for participating. Everyone have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.